You can have fame, power, money, women, and still be a weak man. Sounds controversial? Then look at Diddy's case. One of the most influential names in music, surrounded by luxury, but today drowning in accusations, scandals, and public shame. And what does this have to do with you? Everything. Because what brought Diddy down was not the system, it was himself. It was excess, impulsiveness, lack of control. And this is exactly what has been silently ruining millions of ordinary men. The truth that no one tells you is that modern virility has become a trap. You were taught that being a man means eating everything, coming all the time, and showing that you can do anything. But real masculinity is on another frequency, one that you don't see in stories. Semen retention is not mystical talk, it's the practical key to regaining your inner mastery. And those who understand this early on begin to see the game behind the game. They begin to escape the cycle of relapses, guilt, fatigue, and emptiness. In this video, you'll learn why great men are falling, and how you can avoid that fate. We'll expose what saps your energy without you even realizing it, and reveal the path for you to become the kind of man the world can't manipulate. But before we begin, let me warn you, this content is not for those who want to fool themselves a little more. It's for those who are ready to turn the key, and maybe change their lives. For decades, Diddy was the epitome of success in the male imagination. Mansions, women, parties, status. Everything most men secretly desire, and few actually achieve. But what seemed to be the pinnacle of masculinity turned out to be, behind the scenes, a well of uncontrolled impulses. Recently, the empire he built with so much glamour began to crumble. It wasn't a lack of money, nor external enemies. It was his own lack of control that pulled the trigger on his decline. The accusations, the scandals, and the videos that have been released show something beyond the crime. They show a man who has lost his way. It's easy to fall into the temptation of judging, but what we need to do is understand the mechanism behind the fall. Diddy's life revolved around immediate gratification, constant intensity, pleasure as an escape. And when pleasure becomes an addiction, a man begins to drown in his own abundance. Too much of anything can be as dangerous as too little, or worse. In many cases, the man who reaches the top forgets to maintain his internal structure. And that's where semen retention comes in as a metaphor and tool. We're not just talking about biology, but about internal control. While Diddy projected power to the world, internally he was hostage to his own desires. And this isn't exclusive to celebrities. Ordinary men experience this imbalance every day, just on a different scale. Diddy's public image as a dominant male has crumbled, precisely because of his lack of control. This is the most ironic and, at the same time, symbolic thing. When masculinity is built only on the external, muscles, money, fame, it becomes as fragile as glass. One slip, one exposure, and everything shatters. That's why true power begins within, in how you deal with your instincts, your vital energy, your own body. It's easy to point the finger and laugh at those who fell, but the most honest thing to do is to look in the mirror and ask, would I act differently if I had the same temptations? Semen retention is not a practice of isolated monks, it is a shield against self-sabotage. It is the beginning of an internal reconstruction that strengthens the man from within. And perhaps it is precisely at this point that Diddy's collapse begins to become a lesson for those who still have time to get back on their feet. When a man lives by giving in to his impulses, he gradually undermines his own inner strength. It may seem pleasurable at first, and that is exactly what makes it dangerous. The problem is not the pleasure itself, but the blind dependence on it. A man who cannot say no to his own body will never be able to say yes to his mission. And sooner or later, this exacts a high price: mental, physical, and even spiritual. The imbalance sets in silently, like a virus that corrodes the soul. Sexual energy is one of the most powerful forms of vital energy. When used well, it can move mountains. When used poorly, it can drag a man down a hole. Consider the cases of men who have lost everything because of sexual scandals, betrayals, or compulsions. The decline never starts from nothing. It comes from a lack of control, from the repetition of immediate pleasure, from neglecting one's own center. Semen retention comes in here as a break, as a glimmer of awareness in the midst of chaos. Psychologically, a man who lives with constant ejaculation weakens his own mind. He feels tired for no reason, unmotivated for no reason, anxious without understanding why. And as a solution, he seeks more stimulation, more videos, more quick pleasure. It is a perverse, addictive, silent cycle. Many men think they are depressed, when, in fact, they have too much energy leaking. If they learn to contain, to breathe, to transmute, they would see an absurd change in a few weeks. Spiritually, it is no different. Misdirected sexual energy closes the subtle channels, clogs the creative flow, and blocks intuition. This is why so many ancient traditions recommended celibacy not for moralism, but for potency. A man with semen retention begins to think differently, walk differently, act differently. He becomes more present, more firm, more centered. Because his energy, previously wasted, is now organized within him like an army ready for a mission. If you are a man looking for more energy, focus, and self-control, I have prepared a powerful ebook that will show you how semen retention can transform your life. Link in the first pinned comment. And it all starts when he realizes he is collapsing. It is not about stopping feeling desire, but about not being dominated by it. From the moment he takes the helm of his own energy, the tides of life begin to obey him. And perhaps this is exactly what many are feeling, even without naming it. This feeling of drowning in impulses, needing something to save them before it is too late. Retaining semen is not about repressing yourself, it's about preserving yourself. It's a silent declaration of self-love, self-awareness, and respect for your own temple. Most men grew up hearing that spending is a sign of virility. But few stop to reflect on how much this idea was planted to weaken real masculinity. Semen retention is not about becoming an isolated monk, but about becoming the master of your own will. And this begins deep within, where no one sees, but where everything begins. The fragility of modern man is not only in the body, but in the mind that cannot say enough. We are talking about intelligent men with potential, but who live at the mercy of clicks, videos, fantasies. Semen retention is a reality check. It is like saying, I am not a slave to myself. It is uncomfortable at first, of course. But every muscle only grows under tension. And the self-control muscle is atrophied in many men due to sheer lack of training. When you hold back, something changes in your gaze. Your voice becomes firmer. People listen to you more attentively, even if they don't know why. It's as if the universe recognizes, this guy takes himself seriously. A practical exercise? Start with 7 days. But not only that, during those 7 days, cut out triggers, eat better, meditate. Read books like The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy or Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Feed your mind while preserving your body. At this point, retention becomes a tool for reconstruction. A man who has lost focus can find his discipline again through it. A man who is broken inside can gradually rebuild himself. The energy that once flowed aimlessly now accumulates, organizes itself, and strengthens itself. And when he returns to act in the world, his presence is no longer the same. Because he has learned, in practice, that to respect oneself is to retain, and to retain is to become more whole. What starts as a physical challenge ends up becoming a spiritual process. It's not just about not ejaculating, it's about reclaiming your essence, your glow, your masculine strength. And when you realize this, you start to see everything more clearly. The mistakes, the leaks, the bad choices. It's at this point that a man looks back at his history and starts to ask himself, what if I had discovered this sooner? It's inevitable to wonder, what if Diddy had developed self-control before everything fell apart? If he had understood the power of semen retention, perhaps his story would have been different. It's not about pointing out other people's mistakes as if he thought he was better, but about using the example to reflect on where impulse can take a man. Many of the scandals could have been avoided if he had set limits. Because when lust becomes routine, the downfall is only a matter of time. Imagine a Diddy who, instead of living surrounded by constant stimuli, had learned to channel his energy. A man who focuses on what builds, not what destroys. Semen retention, in this context, would be like an emergency brake that stops the car from going down a slope. Of course, no one is perfect, but when a man becomes addicted to pleasure, he moves away from what made him climb. Vision, strategy, and discipline. It's like cutting the root of a tree and hoping it will continue to bear fruit. What many forget is that behind fame and money, there is a human being subject to the same laws of nature. Excessive sexual stimulation without internal control corrodes any structure, even that of the great. What if instead of multiplying adventures, Diddy had multiplied focus, presence, and inner silence? Semen retention, when properly understood, is exactly that, a space of silence where man returns to himself and does not lose himself in others. It is there that he truly strengthens himself. Diddy became a hostage to his own image, the king of the party, the dominator, the irresistible. But when a man tries too hard to appear strong, it's usually because he's weak on the inside. Restraint brings the opposite, power without fanfare. It's the kind of strength that doesn't shout, but commands respect. And that's what Diddy lacked, not status, but structure. He had everything the world applauds, but he lacked what sustains a man when the curtains close: self-control. It's not about condemning the man, but about reflecting in the mirror. If you were in his place, with everything in your hands, would you resist? Or would you get lost too? What if, before that, you had already strengthened your foundation, your presence, your energy? That's when the question changes. What is there still time to do differently before the fall comes to you too? Every man, sooner or later, has to face a decision that changes the course of his life: to remain hostage to his own impulses or to become the commander of his energy. There is no middle ground. And make no mistake, if you don't control yourself, you will be controlled. Pornography and compulsive masturbation, for example, are not just bad habits. They are silent instruments of energy drain. And each relapse is one more step towards stagnation, chronic fatigue, and mental confusion. What I'm explaining here is much more detailed in my ebook The Power of Semen Retention. There is a simple step-by-step guide for you to apply in your daily life. It is very worthwhile. The problem is that these leaks are invisible at first. Men feel that something is wrong, but they can't connect the dots. They wake up without energy, procrastinate, get irritated easily, and lose focus. But no one has taught them that this can be linked to the way they treat their sexuality. When semen retention comes into play, it's like turning on the light in a messy room. You start to see what was weakening you inside without realizing it. Being the master of your own energy requires discipline, yes. But this discipline gives you back something that the modern world has taken away: dignity. When a person learns to control himself, he learns to choose. He no longer acts automatically. He thinks, breathes, and decides. Want a simple exercise? With each impulsive desire, stop and ask yourself, does this bring me closer to or further from my purpose? This question, repeated sincerely, can save you from many holes that you didn't even realize you were digging. It is curious how the same eyes that sought pleasure begin to seek meaning. The mind that was filled with noise now values silence. The body, previously exhausted, gains new vitality. Semen retention is not a prison, it is liberation. Because when a man stands up as the guardian of his own energy, he begins to attract respect, opportunities, peace. Not for what he shows, but for what he transmits. He begins to inspire, without having to say a word. And this is the moment of awakening. Will you continue to be a slave to your impulses, or will you rise up as master of your own energy? No one can decide for you. The Matrix wants you distracted, weak, masturbating your entire life without realizing what you are missing. But you can break through this. And, who knows, start right now to build a version of yourself that even you will admire. In the end, a man who controls himself inspires respect. A man who loses himself becomes a joke. History is full of examples of great names who became the butt of jokes simply because they didn't know how to control their impulses. And the world, cruel as it is, does not forgive. The same society that applauds is the one that cancels. It gives you fame with one hand and throws you into oblivion with the other. If you don't have a firm internal structure, you will be swallowed up by this cycle. While many seek approval out there, true respect begins when you look in the mirror and see a man who supports himself. And I'm not talking about financial support, I'm talking about posture. A type of firmness that only those who practice semen retention understand. It's as if you create invisible roots within yourself. The temptations keep coming, but now you don't fall like before. You look, you breathe, and you keep going, because you know who's in charge. You may think it's hard. And it is, at first. But anything worthwhile requires effort. It will hurt, it will bother you, it will make you rethink. but it will transform you. And then, when you least expect it, you'll realize that you're different. More lucid, stronger, more confident. It's not magic. It's biology, it's energy, it's applied spirituality. And it all starts with a simple choice. Stop wasting your life force. So, I invite you to start today. Even if it's just for 3 days. Feel your body. Observe your mind. See how it changes. Then try 7. Then 14. And one day, without even realizing it, you'll look back and think, why didn't I start sooner? Semen retention is not the end, it's the beginning of a journey. And each day on it is a step towards your true version. The one that no one showed you, but that you always knew existed. And now tell me, are you going to continue living like the majority, or are you going to stand up as an exception? Did you like this content? Then leave a like, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Here, we talk from man to man. From truth to truth. And if you want to continue on this path of evolution, get ready, because the next video will ignite something in you that was dormant. Don't put it off. Click on the first pinned comment, buy the ebook and start changing your energy, your mind and your life today. Now that you understand all this, answer me honestly. Are you going to continue sabotaging yourself, or are you going to start acting like a man who honors his own energy? You can ignore this call, of course. But how long are you going to put up with living on autopilot, falling into the same holes, repeating the same cycles? The world already has too many disconnected, fragile, easily manipulated men. It's time for you to leave this group. Semen retention is not about being better than anyone else. It's about being better than your yesterday's self. It's about mental clarity, inner strength, purpose. And most of all, it's about freedom. Because the man who masters his impulses becomes unstoppable. He doesn't sell himself for cheap pleasure. He builds something that no one can take away. Character. And character, my brother, is the new gold. So tell me, how much longer are you going to keep emptying yourself for a few seconds of pleasure? How many opportunities have you missed because you were unfocused, unenergized, and unpresent? What if you decided today to change all that? Not tomorrow. It's your life. It's your energy. And no one is going to fight for it for you. If this video has awakened you, leave a like, comment below what touched you the most and subscribe to the channel. Activate the bell because here we will go deep into this path of reconstruction and masculine power. And hey, this was just the beginning. In the next video, we will take an even stronger step in your evolution. Get ready.